Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Solo, Bob Bradford Shaw. I'm over Box. So got a little review of a gig I actually caught last Friday, a bit late got on the press with this. It was Geoff Tate and his band at a venue called Riverside in Newcastle. So I'd seen him a couple of times before, Trillions, a smaller venue in Newcastle, which is a great place to go for drinks and to check out bands. So if you're ever in Newcastle, go there. The first time wasn't great. He performed Mindcrime in its entirety, but it was like Mindcrime on a very low budget, and his band made quite a few mistakes, a bit unrehearsed. I think Geoff Tate at that point was still in the kind of, well, what the fuck do I do now? I'm at Queensryche. The second time I saw him, they played the Rage for Order album and the Empire album in their entirety with some of the top Queensryche cuts. The band was better. Geoff was having a great time, and we sung along with all the tracks. It was actually a really good night. But it was good to see initially him playing the Riverside, because Riverside's a bit of a bigger venue. It's got a bigger stage, better lighting, and Geoff Tate's a big performer. He's got a great legacy, so he should be playing somewhere where he can stretch out a bit more. So right from the outset, they kicked off with the song Empire, and the first thing I noticed was the band was dramatically better. Turns out the drummer was from Seattle, bass players from Australia, I think, one guitarist from Italy, the other one from France. Although they look a little bit mishmashy on stage image-wise, there was much more of a band cohesiveness there. The guitar sound from the outset was excellent. Clearly, studied the classic Queensryche guitar sound. All the solos throughout the set mimicked the DeGarmo and Wilton solos perfectly. And the drums, bass, really good. They were using sample backing vocals to reinforce the real vocals that they're all doing. So they're all still doing backing vocals, but it was just obviously really to get the sound out there. So Geoff Tate came on, first number, and he just looked great. He was dressed really cool, and he had some really big kind of thick glasses on, almost Elvish-ish. And right from the outset, he was just a man in command, and the show just started off really good, and it just pretty much carried from there. So it was a nice eclectic set, this, taking songs from the inception of Queensryche through to 2003. So Empire was the first. Second track was Desert Dance, which some of you remembers off the Tribe album. Now the Tribe album was not great, but it's got a few really good tracks like Falling Behind, the superb Open. Now I would have preferred them to play Open, but as it turns out, the next track was RMI, and then it was Sacred Ground. So RMI is off Promised Land, Sacred Ground is off Q2K. So what's interesting about these, they kind of got a slight kind of Eastern vibe to them. Now Open's quite a slow track. It's in the same tempo kind of feel as RMI, so that's why I think he didn't do Open. That's why I think he chose Desert Dance. So although these tracks aren't as good as the track Empire, they're not as big Queensryche tracks, it was nice to hear them. It was nice to hear him touching bass with those. I mean, RMI, the other Queensryche, play that quite regularly. And people will know that, but you might not be as aware of Desert Dance and Sacred Ground. So this was really good. Set the mood nicely, and it kind of formed a trilogy of kind of Middle Eastern themed tracks, with the kind of Arabic modes, so to speak. And track 5 was Operation Mindcrime. This was a perfect time to do this track. It went down a storm, the guitar was great, everyone sang along, and then he dropped like a really lovely Mindcrime, slightly deeper cut in Breaking the Silence. So you'd expect him to do, Revolution Calling or something like that, but he did Breaking the Silence. It was fucking great to hear this track. It's always been one of my favourite tracks of Mindcrime. Again, the soloing was great. All the bands sounded good, and then he did I Don't Believe in Love. And again, this track can get overplayed a bit. It's a track from Mindcrime, but just coming at this point in the show, it works spot on. And the guitar solo was really good on this when they did a unison little trill at the end, and there's that bow into that accent. It was absolutely so tight. And by this point, the band, everything was cooking. The sound was spot on. The lights were good. Geoff was looking good, sounding good, excellent. Next, they did a really clever double bill. They did NM156 and then Screaming in Digital. And Geoff Tate, after this, actually did a bit of patter about what it was like living in the 80s, and talking about the internet now and AI and how those lyrics predict that. And they were way ahead of the time. They'd clearly probably read the William Gibson Neuromancer, I would imagine, around that time. Himself, probably Chris DeGarmo, and that clearly probably inspired those lyrics. And yeah, it's amazing. They really don't get the respect they should for that. those tracks sounded great. I mean, NM156, we're actually listening, I haven't heard it for a while. It's quite an experimental track, and those accents they put in, punch, 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 very clever. And then Screaming in Digital is just so epic, and it's got an amazing chorus. Then they Walk in the Shadows. Again, another track that always sounds great, even though it's the typical track to play off Rage for Order. You know, it's one that the crowd loves and gets into. So that was really good. Then it was time for a triple bill of Empire. It was Another Rainy Night Without You, Jet City Woman, Sound Lucidity. So Jet City Woman, Sound Lucidity. Sound Lucidity is always played by Jeff Tate, it's always played by Queensryche. Jet City Woman, I think, was played when I saw Queensryche the last time with Todd Latore. So it was nice to hear Another Rainy Night. I hadn't heard that song live until I saw the complete Empire playthrough on the previous Jeff Tate gig. But that was really good. I actually had to go for a piss. At that point, I ran upstairs, bumped into a local photographer, DJ guy, and then listened to the sound from the stage, from up in the balcony. And again, you could kind of pick out all the nuance in the sound. Really, really good. Then they did an encore, which is an excellent cover of Welcome to the Machine. So you may remember Queensryche did this on their TATE cover album. And they kind of opened it out and they really made it their own. And the guitarist cut loose more on this and they showed more of the chops. And I think it was that point, I was with my mate Gary and Graham when they play guitar as well, that we were sort of like, yeah, these guitarists actually could play the Dagama Will stuff quite within their sort of technical capabilities. You know, it wasn't a problem for them. The French guitarist, he had so spiky red hair, in particular his solo on this was exceptional, a great tone. Then he got Take Hold of the Flame, obviously the classic track they always play. His vocals are excellent on this. He managed the first scream. That's what I should say throughout the gig. You know, Jeff Tate's very clever about how he approaches his vocals. You know, obviously in the past he's stunningly stratospheric range on some stuff, and I think he picks the tracks carefully and works out when and where he can sing high. And I imagine he's probably got quite good little plans where it's like, oh, my voice maybe isn't as good tonight, I'll sing this note instead of that. And you never sort of feel shortchanged. And then it was into Queen of the Reich. Just such fun to hear that. And again, he just like the big scream at the start, which is great doing that at the end of the gig. So he managed to fit 16 tracks in. He was only on stage for an hour and 25 minutes, and that's fine to me. I don't want to stand for 2 hours anymore at gig. A lot of people kind of don't realise sometimes that a lot of those Queensryche songs are really tightly arranged and are only 3.5, 4 minutes long. So that means you can fit in a good set. And it was great to hear the deep cuts. I thoroughly enjoyed this gig. I think Jeff Tate's really sort of growing into this thing. Apparently, he said he'd only been home for 12 days last year, I think, or 12 days in the year, calendar year. Because he's been on the road, and you can see like the sort of tights and efficiency he's got now, obviously with the various bands and musicians he works with. If you check out videos online in America on YouTube, he's probably playing with slightly different musicians. But really good, thoroughly enjoyed it. Really good sound, performance was first rate, excellent set list with a really good balance of deep cuts, popular cuts, and you know, maybe not the typical cuts. And oddly enough, the last time I saw Queensryche was in the same venue with Todd Latore, and that was an equally as good gig. And that's the thing now, it will never be the same as it was that amazing time when you saw him on the Empire tour and they did Mindcrime in its entirety, or maybe you call it on the Promised Land tour, when Chris Dagama was there. But at the end of the day, the way things have panned out, Jeff Tate just goes out and enjoys himself and just does whatever Queensryche stuff he fancies. Queensryche Todd Latore doing excellent representation in those tracks, making some good new albums, and of course they can revisit the really high screamy stuff which they're doing at the moment by playing the EP and the Warning album, which I'm hoping to check out sometime. So you get a chance to see Jeff Tate, you won't be disappointed. Like I said, as long as you can go in the knowledge that, you know, it's not going to be quite like Queensryche, but he's still at 65, he can still deliver, and he managed to find some really good musicians to do that. Okay, remember to share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks.